Zapad-2025 exercises, Russia loudly reported the launch of a Zircon hypersonic cruise missile at a target in the Barents Sea. At the same time, Su-34 fighter bombers were operating over the training ground, carrying out so-called training strikes, together with Belarusian military personnel. The response came quickly. NATO launched large-scale maneuvers under the code name Grand Eagle 25. At the same time, Operation Eastern Guard was initiated. This was a response to the unprecedented violation of Poland's border, when 21 Russian drones crossed into its airspace. Why is Putin provoking the North Atlantic bloc, and does he really want a war with them? Let's break it down now. During the maneuvers near NATO's borders, the Kremlin announced the successful test of the Zircon hypersonic missile. According to Russia's Ministry of Defense, the missile hit its target in the Barents Sea with a direct strike. Moscow calls the Zapad-2025 exercise a training for the defense of the Union state, and I quote, the restoration of territorial integrity, whatever that means. It's noteworthy that these current maneuvers are significantly different from previous ones, both in content and in scale. Instead of 100,000 participants like before, now we're talking about only 7,000 to 8,000. Such a show of force actually only highlights Russia's weakening. But despite this, NATO is responding firmly to Moscow's provocations. The alliance is conducting its own exercises, during which it practices rapid deployment of troops and equipment to Lithuania.
In this case, Germany is fulfilling its obligations in 3 areas. Ensuring reliable deterrence and, if necessary, readiness to defend NATO territory in this country. Secondly, providing reliable, powerful, and ready armed forces for deployment. And thirdly, it's about reliability. Reliable armed forces in relation to our allies, our partners, and this country, Lithuania.
As part of his provocations, Putin is willing to go as far as he can until he is stopped by force. For example, on the night of September 10th, Russian drones massively violated Polish airspace, entering from the direction of Ukraine and Belarus. According to Warsaw, we're talking about 21 drones. Moscow has traditionally denied any involvement, but analysts are convinced that such sorties are the Kremlin's way of testing the reaction of the North Atlantic bloc. If the response turns out to be weak, Putin will continue to flaunt his so-called strength.
Incursions like the one that happened in Poland are aimed at undermining the Western military alliance's commitment to collective defense through small offensive operations that test NATO's readiness to respond. The goal is to portray the military alliance as a toothless tiger. From a publication by Politico.
Now Putin is faced with an unpleasant reality. His West 2025 did not inspire fear, and the massive drone raids on Poland had the opposite effect. Instead of cracks within NATO, the Kremlin achieved what it feared most, the ironclad unity of the bloc. NATO invoked Article 4 of the North Atlantic Treaty. Warsaw is in constant contact with its allies, and instead of being frightened, the alliance announces Operation Eastern Guard. As a result, NATO allies sent Czech Mi-171 Charlie helicopters, Danish F-16s, a French Rafale, a German Eurofighter, an air defense frigate, and other assistance to Warsaw.
In my plan, Eastern Guard will cover the entire eastern flank of the alliance, from the far north to the Black and Mediterranean seas, everywhere we might see a threat from Russia. And it will be modeled after Baltic Guard, which has been a very successful operation in the Baltic Sea.
Due to the growing Russian threat, Poland is also accelerating military training for its population. In the first 7 months of this year, a record 20,000 people signed up for voluntary training. According to the Ministry of Defense, by the end of the year, this number could double and reach 40,000. Defense spending is also increasing, from 2.2% of GDP in 2022 to 1.5%, a record 4.7% in 2025. This is the highest rate in NATO. It even surpasses the budgets of Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. And as Reuters notes, the mass turnout of Poles at training grounds is a direct reflection of the fear of possible aggression from Moscow. But at the same time, it is a demonstration of the society's determination to meet it fully armed.
I always say that I will do everything to protect my child. I will fight to the very end. To protect him.
I'm the oldest of my 3 siblings, so I feel the need to protect my family. Just as our ancestors once defended these lands, I feel a responsibility to continue the tradition if the need arises.
Putin, bogged down in the war against Ukraine and under the pressure of Western sanctions, can no longer return to the image of a peacetime president. His goal now is not only to hold on to the captured territories, but also to portray NATO as weak and indecisive. The Kremlin has television and the internet in a tight grip. And so, if necessary, Putin can easily package any truce as a great victory. But his real threat isn't the liberal opposition, but the radical nationalists to whom he himself promised to defeat the collective West. As experts have pointed out, the Kremlin continues to play with fire. On the night of September 14th, a Russian drone entered Romanian airspace. It may have been brief, but it was enough to provoke a new reaction from the West. And this comes after the drone incident over Poland. Essentially, Putin has backed himself into a corner. He can't stop now, and every new escalation only further irritates Ukraine's partners. Bucharest has already called for new sanctions. This is the so-called victory that Russia has brought upon itself.
Romania condemns Russia's behavior and is taking the necessary measures to protect its sovereignty and security. We are in constant contact with our EU and NATO partners and allies regarding Russia's provocations, including the latest one. We must effectively raise the cost for Russia's blatantly illegal and provocative actions by promptly adopting the 19th package of sanctions and the full range of measures under NATO's Operation Eastern Shield. I will also raise the issue of Russia's actions at the UN General Assembly, calling for strict enforcement of sanctions at the international level. Ana Silvia Toiu, Romania's Minister of Foreign Affairs, on the social network X.
Calls to hold Russia accountable for its actions are coming. Not only from the countries affected by it. NATO allies are speaking with one voice. They don't believe it was an accident. Russian tales about the drones supposedly getting lost just sound ridiculous. And the alliance emphasizes that such mistakes happen far too often to be a coincidence. Behind every such incident is a direct provocation and an attempt by the Kremlin to test how far it can go before the West responds firmly.
Russia continues to provoke. I don't believe in Russian mistakes. As NATO allies, we remain vigilant. Russia must pay a concrete price for its provocations against NATO. That's exactly why the Czech Republic supports further sanctions. Jan Lipavsky, Czech Minister of Foreign Affairs, on social network X.
The latest thing Moscow tried to use to intimidate NATO was the deployment of Iskander missile systems to the Kaliningrad region. In the published footage, the launchers are seen positioned toward Warsaw, according to OSINT analysts. Such weaponry in the region is capable of threatening 6 NATO countries, but in reality, it is becoming increasingly clear that the alliance no longer feels any fear as it once did. Even though missiles aren't flying back at Russia in response, the military bloc no longer gives in to pressure. Instead of scaring NATO allies, Putin has achieved the opposite, strengthening the alliance and expanding its presence on the eastern flank. Every new provocation only pushes the bloc toward even more decisive actions. Putin has trapped himself. He can no longer stop, but he also can't manage to intimidate the West. So, every attempt to apply pressure turns into yet another proof of Russia's ineffectiveness and weakness.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.